As Vivian said, my name is Katie Eades. I am the marketing manager at OceanWise Limited, and I'm going to be talking to you today about marine and coastal mapping data available to you via the Digimap service. So the content of today's presentation, first I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about OceanWise, who we are and what we do, then talk to you about why marine mapping is important, why we think it's important. We're all very passionate about marine mapping here. I'll give you some little stats and things, and then I'm going to look at the marine maps that are available through Digimap. Give you a couple of real-world case studies, so those are people using our marine mapping in the real world, and finishing off with some more marine facts. Okay, so firstly, the picture that you can see there, that is our managing director called Mike Osborne, and his quote is at the top there. So covering 71% of the Earth's surface, we believe that marine and coastal domain should not have to fall behind its terrestrial counterparts when it comes to having fit-for-purpose digital base mapping. So Mike and an old director of OceanWise called John Pepper, they were very much the pioneers of the development of marine mapping. But I think it was about 25 years ago, when they weren't working for OceanWise and they were working in other businesses, they recognized that there was a real lack of development on the marine side. So obviously there was development for terrestrial mapping, but the marine seemed to be falling behind. And they very much made it their passion and their focus on developing marine maps, bringing it in line with terrestrial maps. So that's the availability and the development of it. So the quality of that data as well. And today, OceanWise as a business, we're a small business. We're based in Hampshire. There's about 17 of us now. And we are the leading provider of marine maps worldwide. And as I mentioned, our personnel have been the pioneering force in developing and improving the availability of marine maps. And it's very much a passion that we deal with every day. We're all members of different governing bodies and geospatial development bodies, as well as we work with the United Nations on their working group, and we go around the world, or Mike goes around the world, and he talks about the development of marine mapping, encouraging people to think about marine mapping and making sure that the marine data side of things doesn't get forgotten in all of those important conversations when we're talking about the development of geospatial data. So what we do, we work with National Hydrographic Offices. It's quite a mouthful. We add value to their data. So we collect their data and then we do things with it, is the best way of me describing it. And we use our expertise to create the best possible solutions for the customer. So we have the customer in mind, and we develop products, marine mapping products that we believe helps our customers. As marine mapping has developed, the emphasis today is very much on delivering fit-for-purpose maps that can be used and manipulated, which is a really, really important thing. So they need to be able to be used in things like GIS in our very much increasingly digitalized world. We believe that the creation of intelligent maps, and what we mean by intelligent is that we can utilize them and change them, and they're not just a flat one-dimensional map, that we can actually develop maps that are authoritative. So you can trust the data that you've got there, you make sure that it's actually up to date, that they're flexible, they can be used in different applications by different types of users, that they're compatible with the systems that people are using every day, and that they're easily integrated into people's workflows. So those are our driving forces in developing marine maps. Moving on. So this is just a little insight into who uses marine mapping, and I'm sure my list here isn't exhaustive. I'm sure there's more that I've forgotten, but this is just a little snapshot of real-world examples of companies, businesses, organisations, individuals that are using marine maps. So you've got government and agencies, marine security and communication, offshore energy and telecoms, which is a huge one and is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's the development of offshore wind farms, coastal wind farms, but also the development of things like tidal power energy and the marine domain. We've also got environmental and coastal protection, marine science, development and discovery, fisheries and aquaculture, education, such as EDINA and academic institutions, insurance companies, commercial waste disposal, commercial mineral and marine asset extraction. So again, that's another increasing one where people are looking to the oceans to see if there's any minerals and marine assets that they can extract. And then you've got environmental and coastal monitoring, marine accident and investigation, and marine transportation. So that's things like shipping. And then you've got ports and harbours as well. So which again is enormous. I think there's a figure that's I think about 85% of all goods that we use in the UK have at some point come through a port or harbour. So it's huge. Okay, so what's available to you via Digimap? I think Vivian also said that at the end of this, if we've got time, she can demonstrate a bit. So we're looking at the marine part of the Digimap, which delivers the marine and coastal mapping data. And there's two key options that I'm going to look at. And the marine realm, I'll also give you, I've got case studies on both of those, so I'll look at these further. But basically, the thing to know is that the chart realm is a raster chart, essentially, and that is great for basic background mapping. So it's a basic chart, but it's not great if you wanted to do kind of more investigative kind of work. And then if the marine realm, that's very much a rich data set, and it's vector, so you can kind of go in and out, and it's got layers in it, which can be turned on and off. And again, when I do one of the case studies in a moment, I will have a look further into that. So this is the chart realm. This is the raster chart. There's an image down there in the left-hand corner. So those two gentlemen there, one of whom I believe is a pilot, they're looking at one of the traditional nautical paper charts. And they're still in use today, but that is essentially what a raster chart is. It is a scanned version of the original nautical paper charts. They are still used, like I say, by mariners for navigation, and they're still used very much for as background maps as well. So what we've done, we've scanned all of the raster charts, and they are available as a basic background map. The important thing to mention about these is that they are made for navigation. So what the limitations of that is that they won't show anything on the map that isn't relevant for navigation. So if you've got a very, very deep channel and there is something, an obstruction at the bottom, so let's say there's a shipwreck or there's something on the bottom, and it would never go anywhere near the bottom of the hull of a ship, it's miles away from that, not miles, but it's a long distance away, they wouldn't bother showing it on the map. As long as it's irrelevant to navigation, it won't be on there. So the raster charts are not necessarily a true representation of exactly what's there in that area, but they are great if you just want kind of an overview or as a basic or background map. The marine realm is our product, and our brand name for that is a marine themes vector. And it's very much more than just a chart, it's very much more than just a background map. It is a rich data set, and it's got a huge amount of data in there. And the great thing about it is that you can access it, and you can, using all the different layers, you can click those on and off, and you can create your own map based on your own requirements. You can turn those layers and features on and off and create your own map. You can get lost in it, and I have done this myself. I've got sat on there, and I'm fascinated, particularly by the shipwrecks and obstructions there. I just think it's fascinating to see all the different shipwrecks. And you can have a look, and you can scan around and click all these layers on and off. What this map is ideal for is if you're looking at planning, if you're looking at analysis. So any of those organisations that I mentioned before, if they're looking to really understand what's going on in that area, in that marine area, this is the ideal scenario. This is the ideal map, sorry. They can use this map and really investigate that area, have a look at what's going on. Yeah, and it allows you to explore and investigate. And if you've got a few minutes and you're also like me and you're interested in shipwrecks around the UK, then do go on and have a look. It's fascinating. There are very, very many more than you think. So this image that you've got there, I don't know, it's probably a bit too small for you to see, but those little kind of off triangles, they're all shipwrecks, and there's hundreds of them. And you can click on each of those, and you can find out the data of exactly what that shipwreck is, when it went down, any details on it, what was on board, all of that kind of stuff. So it's fascinating. This is just an overview of all the different layers that are there within the marine roam map. So the one I will keep talking about is shipwrecks and obstructions. So that can be planes, it could be shipwrecks, anything that's laying down there on the bottom of the floor that could be an obstruction. Industrial features such as wind farms, the pylons, oil rigs, anything like that. Transport and navigational features such as buoys. And then you've got tides and currents as well on there. For symmetry and the land, and you've got administrative zones as well. So anything is administrative. So if there's any specific areas that might be for, there might be restricted areas, there might be marine asset areas, there might be dumping areas. Let's see, anything like that's in the admin zone. Another important thing to note is that the marine maps that are available via Digimap are the same high quality marine data maps that are used by professionals in the UK and all over the world. So what the students have access to here is the maps that are being used in the real world. So the data is updated, it's the best authoritative data that's out there, and when they go out and explore the world and if they're going into any kind of marine profession, they should hopefully then encounter the same marine maps from OceanWise and they'll be familiar with those. So that's really important, and I think it's ideal for us. We love the idea that these are available to students because it's our best product, so that they're seeing the best thing that's out there. Right, so moving on, I'm just going to have a look at a couple of case studies. So these are real world examples. So firstly, so the Welsh government, this was quite some years ago now, they developed their marine plan, and as part of that, they wanted to present accurate marine mapping data available and understandable to a wide variety of people. And they worked with us, and basically they took the marine roam, they took the marine themes vector product, and they digested that into their own marine Wales planning portal, which I am going to quickly show you now. Hopefully you can all see that. So this is the Marine Wales Planning Portal. Anybody's got access to this, so if you wanted to go and have a look afterwards, please do. The link there is in my slides. Down here, I'll show you this very, very quickly. So they've got version 4.5. So I was talking about before about it's authoritative, so the data gets updated all the time because there is things changing in the marine environment all the time. There might be new obstructions, there might be new conservation areas, there might be, for example, there we've got seabird hotspots, so there might be new things that are added in all the time. A new floating wind farm, for example, these are updated all the time, so it's the best data that's available and that's added in there. And that's just an example. So that was updated at the end of last year. There is another update as well coming through, but the data that's there is the latest data, and that goes for the same with the raster charts as well. The raster charts are updated, so any new items are updated, and you get the updated ones there. Right, so let's just continue through. So this is the Welsh Marine Planning Portal. So this is really what we was just talking about. So you can navigate through, you can zoom in and out. Most people will recognise this kind of portal and can navigate it relatively well. It's a little bit like kind of going on Google Maps or something like that. You can scan in and out. And these layers here are the important ones. So this is where you get to choose what you see. So you can zoom in and out to a specific area if you want, or you can have a wider view depending on what your requirements are. But let's zoom in down to Chepstow area. That's where my father's from. So we can go down here. And just using sorry, I'm just going to scoot this over so I can see the maps. So these are all the different layers that you can choose from. So if I click into society, maritime heritage assets. So this is what they call the shipwrecks and obstructions. So if I click that on, you can very clearly see that all of those little red and yellow dots, those are all the different obstructions. Rules, click on national marine character areas. We can do that as well, depending on what you want to see. And then, like I say, you can kind of click on these individuals if you wanted to have a look, and it takes you to more information. This one particularly it's a wreck. Its name is Oberon. And you can click on this URL here, and that will take you to even more information about it. Let's have a look at another layer very quickly. If you wanted to have a look at energy, oil and gas platforms, that might be interesting. There's probably none there near Chepstow, but there might be some further out if we have a look over here. So I turn off the shipwrecks so we can see the other layers a bit better. Let's wellheads, oil barriers, pipelines. Let's have a look at that, see if we can see it. So it's just popped up. These are all the different ones that have come up with now. Let's also add in some submarine cables. That's always quite interesting to see where all the cables are going. There we go. So as you can see, basically it's an interactive map. It's got all these different layers, all this data that's in there showing you all the different information about the specific layers. It's all authoritative, it's all updated, and it's all kind of readily available. So you can create your own map depending on what it is that you're trying to achieve, what analysis you're doing, what planning you're doing. And we'll find for our different customers, they've got different requirements. So for example, if you're a wind farm and you're looking for a new spot, they'll have very specific requirements about what they're looking for. It would need to be clear of cables, for example, or maybe they want to be near cables, so they've got a way of sending the energy back to shore, that kind of thing. They don't want to be disrupting any shipwrecks, any important marine assets on the base there. They don't want to be in any marine conservation areas, so they might use it for that kind of thing. Right, so that's that one. Let me see if I can get back to my presentation. So that's just a couple of clips that I did before, just looking back at the Marine Planning portal. The second case study is using somebody that uses our raster charts. So Vattenfall, they're a very large offshore energy company, and they have incorporated our raster charts into their organizational web geographical information system. And this is a comment here from Anthony Hunt, who is the leader of their GIS for Vattenfall. And he said, this gives our developers, engineers and other project staff a good overview of many of the key marine features that's relevant for wind farm development. As we take the service to cover a large geographical area, so they take many different raster charts depending on their requirements. So all the different areas that they're already in, or all the different areas that they're looking at, they digest that into their GIS system, and they can get a quick view on areas of potential market development, any growth, in addition to their current portfolio. And like I said, the wind farm and the offshore energy market is enormous, and the data side of our business is about 50% of our business. We also do something else, and we've seen in the last 2 years, 2-3 years, that we've had about 20% growth on data orders, and I think most, if not all of that, is coming from this sector. So there's huge growth in it. People looking to the marine area to develop new sites. So yes, it's an important and exciting area that we're working in. Okay, so that's the case studies. I'm just going to finish off with a few marine statistics, which I hope you might find interesting. So marine productivity, going on from what I was just saying, the turnover and employment has increased over the last 5 years, despite the impact of COVID. There is more investment in the area, and there's more jobs as well. Our oceans are national assets worth an estimated 1.2 billion euros globally, and governments now, businesses now, are looking to the seas to bolster their economy, and that includes the UK. Interestingly, and I find this an incredible fact, that less than 20% of the ocean floor has actually been mapped. So there is a huge force behind developing that and finding out much more about our oceans. But 13% of that 20% is in just the last 4 years. Actually, that's in the last 6 years. Sorry, that needs to be updated. But the scientists are trying to map it all by 2030, which is quite an ambitious target. but there's a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of scientists that are behind it. So it's called the Seabed 2030 project, and a lot of people are trying to map the seafloor. The thing about the seafloor, of course, is that it likes to change as well. So if you've got hard rock on the seafloor, it probably won't change, but a lot of the seafloor isn't hard rock. It's sediment or sand, and just like the deserts, the wind likes to move the sand around, and the same thing kind of happens on the seafloor. The waves and the tides like to move the sediment and the sand around, so it doesn't always look exactly the same, even if you were to map it, but that's their challenge. I think generally speaking, having a much better understanding of what's underneath our oceans will be great, because there's a lot of information coming out, particularly if you're interested in marine conservation and obviously climate change. Our oceans are very important in terms of helping us to halt climate change. So the development of mapping is going to support that, definitely. Scientists know more about Mars, Venus, and the dark side of the moon than they know about Earth's ocean depths, which is crazy, isn't it? But it's true. And 60 to 70% of our oceans are still under no jurisdiction at all, which I find incredible. Put simply, we don't know enough yet about our oceans, and continued research and development. There is huge continued research and development opportunities. So for students particularly, the world is their ocean. There's a lot to discover. This last slide, just to cover a little bit why the academic sector is important to us. As I mentioned before, we want students to use the best available data, and that's what they get via Digimap. We understand that research and development requires the best possible mapping and latest data. So if you haven't got the latest data, then you're not starting off on the right foot. So it's really important to us that students do get the best and the latest data. And also for students, it's great to see that they'll have consistency. So whatever it is that they're using in schools and in the universities, they will then go on to use outside of school as well. So they've got that recognition. And very quickly, fresh minds ask questions. So we've always found that when we've got, we're quite keen to use the apprentice scheme and to give opportunities to students fresh out of university. And we always find that they ask the best questions. They come out and they ask questions that we haven't even thought about, and they definitely push our development and innovation from this side. So if anybody's got anything that we're not doing, if you notice anything that would be really, really good, any layers or anything like that that we can develop on, we are listening. So we're always open to ideas to come from anywhere. So yes, please do let us know. There we go, I think that's it. So I think there's a question and answer session. And I don't know if you want to do any demonstration, whether we've got time for that.
Thanks, Katie, that was really interesting.
I'm just going to share my screen.
Don't think we have any questions at present, so perhaps I will do a quick demo and give people the opportunity to mull over what sort of questions they want to ask. So let me just share my screen. I really enjoyed that, Katie, thank you. Now let me find my browser. One thing that occurred to me is I read an article a while ago about seagrass and how they're going to start seagrass farms for carbon capture. Is that that type of info included in the data?
It's not that I know of. No, I don't think habitation is in there. It's because we basically can kind of only send you the data that we have, and I don't think seagrass is one of those things that is there, unfortunately. But you're absolutely right. Seagrass is one of those marine gems that has been proven that the oxygen qualities of it is massive. There's very small patches can have such a huge impact. So firstly, we don't want people to get rid of any seagrass that's already there. So there's that kind of side of thing, but also it's the development and the planting of lots of seagrass. But that could really have a big impact in terms of marine, in terms of climate change. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now I'm just going to press on with a demo. Emma, if there are some questions, can you just interrupt me?
Sure, we've got 2 questions so far. Maybe while you set that up, Katie could have a wee think about this one. First one is, how accurate is the bathymetry data, and how far does it extend, or how far does the data extend offshore from the UK? That's the first question. That's two questions, sorry. Two questions, not one.
So the bathymetry data side of things, I don't know, because I'm not technical side of things. I don't know what's in there. We've got a product called Marine Digimap, which is very much the latest kind of survey data for bathymetry. So that's probably the best that's in there. The bathymetry data there, so that's sent to us from the UK Hydrographic Office. The coverage will depend on who makes that data available. So there, for example, the UK Hydrographic Office, I think, does make quite a lot of their bathymetry data available. And surveyors in the UK are asked to kind of send them their data. But there are a lot of hydrographic offices around the world who do not publish that. So we can only get access to the data that we're allowed to have. And a lot of countries don't allow you to have it. I guess they're worried about maybe exposing some things. I don't know, but there's a lot that's not available. So it's the best data that's available is probably the best description of it.
I suspect there'll be national security implications of varying nations and so on, won't there?
Right, so various nations, some nations are very open to it and you can get access to the bathymetry data. I mean, they're also, around the UK, there's a lot of surveying going on with very kind of, marine safety is very important. So all around the ports, for example, there's lots of surveys and they send their survey data to the UK hydrographic offices and therefore they can then send that to us. But there are certain areas that nobody's interested in. So around the port's very interesting. There are other areas, there's nothing there and no one's particularly interested. So no one's going to pay for a survey to be done. So the bathymetry data is in some instances, it's very old data because it's the last time that someone went and did a survey there and nobody's commissioned or is prepared to pay for that survey to be done.
Yes, I can imagine there will be researchers who want to examine new volcanic activity on ocean floors in the middle of nowhere, as you say, and therefore there's interest from the academic side, but maybe not from the commercial side.
Exactly, yeah. And this Seabed 2030 project is very much around getting everybody involved in the same pot to say, look, if we all share our data, we're all going to be better off. So it's encouraging everybody to get on board and share their data so that there's this kind of big marine map. So that's developing. So I'm hoping that by 2030, which is probably not that far off really if we think about it, the availability of all that data will be much, much better than it is at the moment. I mean, it's still quite good depending on where you want to look at, but there's definitely gaps in the data at the moment.
Yeah, these things take time, don't they, to get everybody talking to each other. Yeah. We've got another quick question. Is there information on the various scenarios of sea level rise? I don't think that's something you cover, is it, Katie?
No, it's not. No, we've obviously got tidal data in there. But sea level rise is not something that's in there, so I don't know.
I think to answer Claire's question, I suspect that the information on sea level rise, certainly from what we've seen, is research material that academics are putting together, and you can probably find published papers on various different scenarios because lots of people will have different views on what affects it and what the outcomes will be depending on the facts that they wish to take account of.
I believe there's lots of research going on intertidal areas. So that's those areas that are kind of land at one portion and the water at another time of day, and to see how that's growing and shrinking. But that's not something that's included in these, I don't believe. But I will. I can ask that question to Caroline, who's the expert, and certainly if there's anywhere that we know of that you can find that data, I'm happy to share the link. I'll ask that question.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that last bit. My son's school has shut his class down this morning because they've got no staff. So I've suddenly got an 8-year-old at home who doesn't grasp the concept of webinars. So I'm sorry I missed that last little bit, Katie.
I was just saying that if I don't know really the answer to that question, but I will try and find out.
Brilliant, thank you.
From Caroline, who's more of the expert, see if there is anywhere that we know of that's got kind of the sea level rise data.
Yes, I'm sure there'll be academics around the UK who will have their own data. It's a question of finding out where it's published and whether it's available and whether they wish to share it or not, I think. We've got another question about marine pollution hotspots. Do you have any data on that?
No, we've not got pollution hotspots. In there are the administrative zones that are concerning. So areas that you're allowed to go and dump things, and areas that are restricted, and the marine conservation areas, they're all in there. But in terms of pollution, I don't believe that that's in there.
No, I think that's again, that's another hot research topic, isn't it? You may find that there are academics who are publishing their own data on that.
Yeah.
Somewhere, yeah. Another quick question, let me give this quick read from Emily, who is looking for data covering human activity and impacts on the marine environment. I found eModNet really helpful so far. Yeah. Do you have any other good suggestions? And she says she might get in touch to discuss more.
Yeah, if we get in touch, because again, I'm sure there are experts here that can answer that question. So Mike, he's actually on holiday. He's 60 today, so he's off on his boat somewhere in the Maldives, I think. But there'll be people that we know that will be able to answer that question. I don't know myself, but I'm sure somebody will know.
Brilliant. Emily, I suggest then that maybe you should get in touch with Katie and continue that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Andy is suggesting that we try the IPCC Data Distribution Centre for sea level rises.
Okay, great.
That's a useful tip. Thanks, Andy. Okay, I think that's what we've got written down as questions. Viv, do you want to carry on and do a little demo? I think you've just about got a bit of time.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm on the Marine Digimap area of our homepage here. So you can see these are our applications on the right. Katie really helpfully showed us some images of chart and marine roam. So these are where you can view the maps, annotate them with symbols and shapes and so on, and get a print. You can get a PDF or PNG or JPEG print of your maps here. If you actually need the data, the original raster charts or the vector data, we have this Marine Data download application here. So you can get both types of data within that application. We also have web map services available. So if I just click on the Marine Web Services one, for those of you that are not familiar with WMS, this allows you to use this link that's here to take this and use it in other software or other mappers, and then get a stream of the mapping imagery. So it's a really useful way if you want the background mapping to combine with your own data, and we provide this service to allow you to do that. It is licensed data, so you would still have to authenticate with your username and password in order to use those. But we have them for the vector data, so this is the Marine Web one, and the charts as well. So there's two separate WMS there. I'll quickly try and demo a WMS for you. So I'll open chart room first of all, just to show you what the nautical charts look like. So you always open at this window with GB. You can zoom in and out with the plus and minus signs on the scale bar, or just by double clicking and or using the pinch gestures on your device, whichever you're using. I'll go to Southampton. That was where Katie had some images of. Okay. So this is one of the raster charts on display here. I can zoom in a little bit further. I'll pan a little bit further down. I'm going to zoom out once and go a bit further down this channel to where we can see the Isle of Wight as well. So as this is, as Katie said, a scanned raster image, we can't, separate out any of the categories of data within it. We can simply view it. We do have a little information tool at the top here. So if I activate that and then click on the map, it's going to tell me which raster charts are being viewed right now. So we're looking at 2045 and 2450. So they have a name and a title. So these are from the UK Hydrographic Office. It tells me the scale as well. I'm going to close that, and I'll also show you the map content category here. It says this view has no layer selection. So essentially that means it's a raster chart. You can't, select which features you want to view. But if you use these arrows, you can view a map legend here. So if you look at the obstructions area, for example, it shows you that these are the shipwreck symbols that are used on these maps. I'm going to open the information panel here on the left, just to show you the map date. So that's July 2020. So the charts that you're viewing within Chart Rome are from that date. However, within our download application, our engineers have informed me that we do have more up-to-date charts available to download. And on that note, there's another little tool at the top here which says, it's really titchy on my screen, but it says use this area in data download. So if I select that icon, it's flipped me over to the data download application, and it's highlighted that area of the Solent on the screen here. So this data download process is a step process, and that's really step one has been done for me. I've selected my area, it's shaded on the map. And the next step would be to select which mapping products do you want. So I can choose the vector data. So I just tick the box next to that. And there's two different types of raster charts. There are raster charts excluding land, and that is what we use in the Chart Rome mapping application, or you can select raster charts, which gives you everything. And then there's also a separate bathymetry section here, and there are these two different products. And if, I know someone asked about the depth of that, so I will check our help pages and guides and provide some information on that if it's there in the follow-up. So I select the products and say add to basket, and then it's a matter of going through different options. So for the vector product, we have two different formats. So the one you select will depend on the software you're going to use it in. And there are also different versions available. So for raster charts, for example, the most up-to-date is January 2022, but you can select from previous versions there. So once you've made all your selections, you simply request the download, and then our help desk will let you know when it's available to download. So that's how you get a hold of the data if you want the actual vector and charts to do some further analysis on them. Let me flip back now to I've got my browser maximized. I'm sorry, that's caused me a bit of difficulty. What I'm going to do now is now show you Marine Rome, where you can actually view the vector data. So let's go back to Southampton again. Let's select Isle of Wight actually. And just very quickly, I'll show you the difference of using vector data. So I think I've landed in the middle of the Isle of Wight where there's nothing visible. Okay, so I'll zoom out of there and let's zoom in a little bit over here. Okay, so what you find with the vector data is that it's been engineered in order that not every layer is on display at every scale. You'll find that the view, what the different symbols and features on display will change as you zoom in and out, but you can get a grip on that in the map content here. So this is the difference with the vector data. You can say, okay, here are all the layers which Katie was telling us about, and this is where I can control this a bit more. So if I'm only interested in the bathymetry, for example, I can just uncheck everything else that's on display there. And I'm going to open that a little actually. Okay, so this gives me all these depth area. And there's actually some features which haven't been shown there, such as depth sounding values. So you can turn those on as well. Now, if I access this little information tool at the top here this time, and I was going to try and click on a rec, but I've turned them off. That was silly. Okay, so I've selected the map. And again, this tells me all the features that it's identified at that point. So you can see there's some administrative stuff such as restricted area, there's bathymetry information, there's an administrative harbour area there, and so on. So that's the difference with the information tool here. You can zoom in and get information about different features. I'm just going to try and find your shipwreck because there's tons of them in this, this area. I'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, so this must be one here, the Neptune. Okay, so dangerous wreck, the Neptune. Okay, so that is the essentials, the differences between marine roam and chart roam. I did mention that you can annotate and stuff. Some of you may be familiar with their other roam applications. I'll just quickly run through that there are drawing tools here where you can add markers, shapes, grid references, all sorts of stuff. There's measurement tools. The last thing I want to show you is this overlays menu. Now, in some of the other roam applications for different collections, there are different layers of data that you can choose to view on the map in addition to what's in the map window. We don't have anything relevant to add there in Marine Roam, but what you can do is add in a web map service. I showed you when I looked at the Marine Digimap homepage that there are a couple of web map service options there. So this allows you to, if you, for example, want to see some data that's on land, you can add in a web map service of that and view them in conjunction with the marine mapping data. So if we scroll down here, hopefully you can see this stuff. I hope it's not too small. There's, for example, here, this is Scottish Natural Heritage Renewables Web Map Service. So that's something that is a feed of mapping images from that organisation, which I've used to demonstrate with other mapping collections. But we've also got our own mapping data in here. I'm going to turn off this Digimap Marine one. Let's say, for example, you really wanted to see, well, what is on land at this point? You know, I can see there's HMS Sutton here. If I turn on this Digimap Ordnance Survey one, we should start to see some contemporary topographic data coming in there. Let's turn that off. How typical is that? It's not working. I promise you it does typically work. Okay, let's try another one. I've got a Scottish Natural Heritage one there. So let's go to somewhere in Scotland up in, I'm going to choose Stranraer in Dumfries and Galloway. And I'll turn off this one. And I'm going to look at this renewables one. So you can see I've got onshore wind farm proposals there. So I'm going to turn this on. And so this is what we're seeing here. So we've got a marine mapping of the coast. And all of these coloured polygons here, these are being streamed through from the Scottish Natural Heritage web map service. So you can see the different polygons mean that the yellow one is where someone's applied to a wind farm. The pink is where they've been approved and so on. So I just wanted to show you that possibility, because if you do have, you know, if people are doing some sort of environmental analysis, maybe it's useful to be able to combine and view different data sets together. Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, then yeah, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to Katie for giving up her time to do this. It's much appreciated.
Pleasure.
As I said, I will follow up with a recording, and if anyone does have any more questions for Katie, then I don't know if we've got your contact details, Katie, but we could certainly forward stuff on.
Yeah, please do. I mean, please forward. Yeah, I'll send you, or you've got my email address, but please forward it on. I'm very happy for people to contact us if they've got any specific questions. Then you know, we're very happy to help.
Super. Well, thanks again, and thanks to everyone for coming along.